the man, the myth, the legend, the bearded Scott Ian of Anthrax. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
You know what, man? I am fantastic and extremely excited about this interview. And I know Chuck is currently rubbing his nipples in excitement.
Why would you say that on air?
Why wouldn't I say that on air?
Because you should put it on video first.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Apologize. So, Scott, I know you're currently on tour with Slayer, and how's that going?
The tour with Slayer is going great.
Yeah, I see Slayer, Death Angel, all that fun stuff. So everything's going good?
Yeah, it's great. Shows are great.
Nice. We actually just got to see you a couple weeks ago at Rock Allegiance, and it was a phenomenal show, I have to say. Did you enjoy yourselves?
Yeah, the Chester, Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, Chester, PA was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, that was a crazy weekend for us. We played 4 shows in 36 hours. So, and with Rock Allegiance being the 4th of the shows, so we were pretty burnt, but the crowd was so good. It made it a great show for us.
Yeah, I was in the pit, and I must say that there was a lot of new fans. What do you think about the new fans that come out? Does it surprise you that they're so young and that Anthrax is going so strong?
No, I'm not surprised, not at all. The whole goal of playing shows like that is to play to people that have never seen you before, probably have heard of us, but don't own a record or have never bought a ticket. It's our job to get up there and entertain the fuck out of them and make them fans for life. That's all we've been doing for 35 years. So no, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, you guys have been around since '81, and it's amazing that you guys still stay current and fresh in everyone's mind. What do you guys do to stay so up with the times in this ever-changing music scene?
We don't do anything. We're just Anthrax. We don't do anything. We just write the best songs we can. We make records, and we try and be the best live band we could be. There's no playbook for this, being in a band. Or if there is, somebody neglected to send us one. But we don't do anything. We're just Anthrax.
That you definitely are. My favorite part, honestly, about your guys' performances is I watch you a lot because your faces are just absolutely 100% priceless. Your live performance is just second to none. It really is. How do you get so much energy?
I just really enjoy playing. From day one, all I ever wanted to do was play with other people, like be in a band and then be able to have that band play in front of people. And so that's my favorite part of being in a band is my time on stage. So I don't really need much motivation more than that. Just the idea of standing in front of people who are there to see you do your thing. That's all I need. And even if they're not there, I mean, when we were first starting, it's not like anybody was at our shows, and I was the same way on stage. So for me, it's all about just being there with my band and getting on stage, and we start a song, and it's kind of involuntary. It's just who I am as a person, and how the music moves me.
Did you ever think that 35 years ago when you started, you'd reach the heights that you have?
35 years ago, no. I was in 1981. I was probably worried about trying to get an amplifier that sounded halfway decent. I wasn't thinking about much more past that. Or could I afford? I broke a string, and how was I going to buy a new pack of strings? So no, I wasn't thinking 35 years ahead.
Those were the days,
yeah.
Right?
Just worrying about all kinds of stuff that you shouldn't have to worry about. I am rather curious, kind of an outside-the-box question. If music wasn't in the cards for you, what profession would you have chosen? Like, is there something you wanted to do before music?
Not as a job. I was so young when I basically committed to wanting to make music my life. I hadn't really thought of anything else as the possibility of a job. But I mean, there was things I loved before music. Comic books. I was into comic books before I was into music, and I was certainly into horror before I was into music. But I never thought about making horror movies when I was 7, really. And I did think about comic books, and I used to draw all the time. I was a terrible artist. But even as I got into my teenage years, once the band was happening, of course, and in the '80s, I always had in the back of my mind the idea of, well, it would be cool if I could someday write comics, and I was able to make that happen. But not before I was in a band. I never really thought of anything as a profession before I decided that I needed to make music my life.
You said comic books, and Chuck's eyes lit up. He is a huge nerd.
I love you more than I possibly could. I don't understand how, but your official website has some really cool stuff on it, like never meet your heroes. But one in particular caught me off guard. Explain Bloodworks to those who don't know that.
Bloodworks is a show that I have on the Nerdist channel online at nerdist.com, and it's basically me hanging out with effects guys and makeup, Hollywood makeup guys who do all the makeup and prosthetics and effects for movies and TV shows. And because I'm just a big fan of that world, and Chris Hardwick, who runs the Nerdist site, asked me one day if I'd be interested in doing a show like that for the site, and basically going and getting made up, and most of the time getting killed in lots of really cool and gory ways
Nice.
on my show. So
That's beautiful.
yeah, I was all over that. I don't really like to do anything unless it's something that I'm going to have fun doing. And I got to be on The Walking Dead because of my Bloodworks show, and I got to get made up like a White Walker for Game of Thrones. So to get to do shit like that I'm already such a fan of, and then I get to be a part of that world because of this little internet show that we created. It's awesome.
Yeah, you mentioned The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. How was it being on both of the two of my favorite shows of all time? Walking Dead's probably one of my favorite books of all time. I'm also a huge comic book guy and horror. I'm a huge horror freak. Walking Dead, you were only on it for about 45 seconds, and you took a pole to the head, which was awesome. But how was it being on that show? I mean, it's one of the most iconic musicians of all time, being probably on one of the most iconic TV shows of all time.
It was great. It was completely surreal to be on set and actually be a part of it, because I've done plenty of these Bloodworks episodes where I get made up in all kinds of ways, and I get killed in all kinds of ways, but never actually in the context of an actual show. And then I got to do Walking Dead and actually be a part of it and be in a scene with Andrew Lincoln and Chandler Riggs, who plays Carl. And so it was completely surreal to be there and be a part of it and have Greg Nicotero, who's a friend of mine. That's how the whole thing happened, because I'm friends with Greg. And I had already done a Bloodworks episode with him, but at his shop in L.A., at the K&B Effects shop, where he basically, instead of me getting killed, he let me smash up and kill a bunch of things and run over a zombie head with a car and beat one with a pipe, and which was a nice change of pace instead of me getting killed. But anyway, it was Greg who was able to make it happen, that we were able to go to Georgia and actually get me on the show. And so him directing me in the scene, and it's still unbelievable to me. Like, if I didn't have the photos of it, it'd almost be like I dreamed it, because it was so unreal actually being there and grabbing Andrew Lincoln's leg and you hold on to his leg, you don't let go until he pulls away. And if you've seen it, I come crawling out, and Carl puts the pipe through my head. And they even gave me a name, Steel Pole Head Walker, when they did the
memoriam
segment on Talking Dead. So I was stoked that my walker was important enough to have his own name.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's
Nice.
not every day that you get to fake stab Scott Ian in the head with a pole on The Walking Dead. I mean, I'm sure.